Hey, Brandon here. Welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Got my second 2024 rookie mock draft posted here on the YouTube channel. It is early December. I'm joined today by Corey Pereira, one of my good friends. He is a contributor at campus2canton.com as well as my dashboard. We do a three-round rookie mock draft, all right? What you're looking at now is the draft board. On this channel, we only do mock drafts with landing spots and draft capital because they matter. So it'll be a point of reference. You can screenshot the screen here just so you can kind of follow along. A little caveat, we recorded this only to find out that Trevion Henderson declared to go back to Ohio State, kind of shocking the college football world. And he was drafted, obviously, in this draft, so that will be a miss pick with him going back to college. But enjoy the draft. Hit that subscribe button. If you play Fantasy, you play Dynasty, you're looking for a channel to help you scout the 2024 draft class, this is the channel. So, again, thanks for watching and enjoy the show. All right, Corey. So let's get into the mock draft. All right. So this is the second mock draft we've done, on the podcast and on the YouTube channel here. And I came up with the landing spots. So we're gonna have some fun with that. I'm a mock draft just hound. I love looking at the mock drafts. Since I am the host here, I did give myself the first pick. So let's get right to it. And I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. He is my overall first pick going to the Chicago Bears with round 1 draft capital. So first pick in the draft. It'll be interesting to see if this reality happens. It seems like a lot of people, in the Chicago Bears, they might move on from Fields, but who knows? They might trade down. But in this particular mock, a lot of people have Caleb Williams, going to the Bears, courtesy of the Carolina pick. So I'm going to go with Caleb Williams here with the first pick. It's a super flex league. Got to get your QB early.
Yeah, and that'll be a spicy move. It mean Justin Fields is on the move somewhere. Maybe Bears are going to get some extra picks there. Could possibly come back into this first round, grab another playmaker or something like it. It might be an interesting move for the Bears in the long haul. I don't think there's much that we have to say about Caleb Williams if people don't know. I just have to ask, does the attitude bother you at all with some of the things he's done this year?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
it does. And my third pick, I'm going to kind of lead into that. So who'd you pick with number 2?
Yeah, so number 2, I went with my quarterback 2 currently in the class. I'm going with Mr. Drake May. And I know that his season probably wasn't as spectacular as some of us hope, but he did go through a lot of changes, OC changes. He didn't have his main weapon until about halfway through the season in Devonte Walker. Like, there was a lot going on around him, injuries at the wide receiver position as well. But I still saw a lot of the flashes from him. I think the arm talent is there. I think he moves pretty well. I think he does a lot of things really well. Going to the Patriots here, let's just hope that somehow they can turn it around. They grab another nice piece later on in this draft that we'll talk about as well, which will reaffirm my confidence a little bit, at least in this pick. But yeah, sticking with Drake May here at 102.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk on the move the sticks with Bucky Brooks and Jeremiah. I don't know if you listen to that. They were talking about, they were talking about, do they move on from Belichick this year? Is it time to get a new coach to pick his quarterback, or do you reboot with, Belichick getting, his cream of the crop? I mean, he probably really didn't want Mac Jones, but felt the need to grab him a few years back in the middle of the first round. So we'll have to see how that plays out. So I think in these drafts, it's probably what you're going to see in a lot of these mock drafts, Williams, May. But I'm going to throw a little thing in here. So I think in the third pick, people are going to be, really kind of, they're going to be on the fence as to what to do. Do you go Marvin Harrison Jr. here? You take the next, stud wide receiver in the NFL, or do you take a rising quarterback in Jayden Daniels, who I know, Corey, you have been a fan of for some time, I believe. You've been a fan of him, right?
I have, since freshman season. I was, I'll let you get into it a little bit. I was a little upset about the lack of development until this point, but these last 2 years have been really strong for him.
Yeah, they have. And he goes to the SEC. He kills it. And I'm taking Daniels here. He gets a round 1 draft capital in the top 10 here. I think top 6 or 7 in the draft that I prepared, going Tampa Bay. So it's a super flex league. I love the depth of this wide receiver class. So I'm going to go, it's a super flex league. I'm going to take Jayden Daniels. Now, going back to that intangibles question that you threw at me with Williams, is it a concern? Yeah. I think of all 3 of these players, They all have the skill to succeed in the NFL. And I think the one thing that's going to determine who gets drafted first is going to be the intangibles. And you know, Corey, I've always been that guy that says intangibles matter. The one thing, the one piece of all of these quarterbacks that we do not know is how smart they are. You know, how mentally tough are they? Can they be the face of a franchise? And who knows, there might be a good chance by the time April rolls around that Jayden Daniels rises and could be, you know, the number 1 or 2 quarterback taken in this draft. The dude played lights out. Matt Miller on Twitter put out a tweet. In throws over 20 plus yards in 2023, he had 22 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I mean, his ball placement has been phenomenal this year. He's got the mobility. With the 3rd pick going to Tampa Bay, draft 1, you know, round 1 draft capital. I'm going to swing with Daniels because, you know, I got to pick in 2 picks and I'm going to get a receiver I really like.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with this here. I actually love this. He's had the type of season that, you know, I want to say it's excuse me. I want to say it's reminiscent of Joe Burrow, not in the sense that they're the same people, but Joe Burrow's season, it took me so long to buy in. Like week 5, I was still kind of saying like, I don't know, is this anything special here? But it got to the point where it was like, okay, this is a phenomenal season. Like I can't refuse this anymore. Like what he's doing is amazing. And you were even talking about the deep ball, talking about a guy who last year, that was one of the things that were kind of his problem. He was a very safe quarterback. He played safe in his first system or in his first year at LSU, wasn't pushing the ball down the field. It was something I wanted to see. And this year, just blew up, just did everything right. I was talking with Austin in our Devy chat over at Campus of Canton. He, you know, kind of let out a bold, spicy take. He goes, I wouldn't even be surprised if Jayden Daniels ends up the quarterback 1 in fantasy from this class. You know, I think his draft capital area might even be more like I don't even know if he'll go top 10, but even if it ends up more like that Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts area, but we've seen those guys that like probably have QB1 peaks at some point as well. I don't think that that's crazy for Jayden Daniels, given his dual threat ability and everything else he brings. So I love that pick there. But at 104, you left me the guy that everybody probably wants at 103, possibly in Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think I got to put much context into this. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism. He does everything really well. He's a really refined route runner for a guy of his size as well. I think he's got that from his daddy. Maybe it helped him along the way, teach him some of those things. Really think he's a complete package at wide receiver. So an easy pick here for me at 104.
Yeah, I like it. There's talk out there that there's people that are going to be taking Marvin Harrison at the 101, you know? So I mean, there's going to be guys that maybe are loaded, that have a dynasty roster loaded already at quarterback that don't need one, that maybe can't get a trade partner and just go right to the Marvin Harrison and get that wide receiver. So I wouldn't be surprised. And you know, as we get closer to our rookie drafts, that he maybe goes 101 on some takes. So that leaves me with the 5th pick in the 1st round. I'm taking one of my favorite receivers. He's been my number 2 receiver behind Marvin Harrison all season long. That's Malik Nabers, getting drafted by the Bears. All right. They've got 2 early picks in this draft, and, you know, going with Caleb Williams, Malik Nabers, which is nice because they have more there that'll take maybe the wide, you know, the DB, number 1 DB coverage, and let Malik Nabers be that wide receiver too. So taking him here with the 5th pick in the 1st round.
Love that pick. Love the way he's developed over these 3 years here in the system. You can see visible growth for him. Love him as a complete player. At 106, I'm going to go and take the first running back off the board here for a guy from Ohio State, Mr. TreVeyon Henderson, who finally bounced back off of that kind of injury-riddled season he had last year. Had everybody questioning the talent. I tried to stay as strong as possible. I kept him like right up at the top 2, top 3 most of the entire time. I kind of felt like he would be able to bounce back if we just saw him healthy. I was giving him leniency for the last year because of the fact that he was injured. And he did. I thought he looked spry. I thought he looked good. And again, this is a player that, like, he's not going to win on play strength. He's not going to win, you know, pushing the pile and things like that, but he doesn't have to. Like, he can be what we've seen DeAndre Swift be. He can be what we've seen Dalvin Cook be, J.K. Dobbins be, those type of guys. He's that modern type and excels in the passing game as well. So at 106, going to the Chargers here as well, which I think, you know, they're going to be moving on from Eckler probably at some point. He's even showing some signs of decline already this year. Might be finally the time to move on. Nobody's stepping up behind there. This is a great spot for him.
Yeah, to go into the Chargers, I mean, he's got early round 2 draft capital too. I don't think we're going to see a round 1, you know, running back taken in this year's draft, but he's my clear number 1 too. I just put a running back show out on my YouTube channel, on the channel here, and you know, he was my number 1. He's been that bounce back, like we saw, is kind of solidified that for me. All right, at the 107, I'm going to take Brock Bowers. Again, this is a tight end premium league. Tight ends, dare I say it, are they making a comeback in fantasy? I mean, are we actually interested in talking about tight ends all of a sudden?
Yeah,
You know,
rookie
with
tight
the
ends at that too. I mean,
rookie tight ends are
yeah.
starting to be all the flavor now, right? It's starting to get some buzz. And, you know, in a tight end premium league, I play in a lot of those type of formats. They score a ton of points when you got a good one. So he is getting, day one draft capital and going to the Chargers as well. So they're looking for pass catchers. I mean, Keenan Allen's getting older. Who knows if Quentin Johnston's going to work out, and Mike Williams can't stay healthy. I don't know. Give me in that offense, although it hasn't been really looking very prolific recently this year. But Brock Bowers in the tight end premium league, I'm taking the elite tight end in the class. There's a teardrop after Brock Bowers, so I'm going to take him here with the 7th pick going to the Chargers.
Yeah, really like that pick. I think he could be used similar to the way, that the Bills are using
Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid right now, like splitting him into the slot, splitting him out wide a bunch as well. So I think he has those kind of movement skills. I don't know how much he's going to be your traditional inline tight end blocker, but he doesn't have to be in this modern NFL. He can be used a bunch of different ways. At the 108, I'm going to go back to the wide receiver and take a guy that you really like, guy that you were just talking about at the beginning, and Mr. Rome Odunze, who's risen a lot for me. I think one of the things I'll nitpick a little bit that I wanted to see from him was just playing with a little bit more play strength at the point of the catch. I wanted to see him fight through contact a little bit more. And Michael Penix's ball placement was a little bit here and there. Sometimes he was having to adjust the low passes. So he didn't get as many opportunities above the rim that I wanted to see. I saw a lot more of that this year. I saw the body control. I saw keeping the feet in bounds. I saw a lot of those things improve this year. The movement skills as well. I think he's a very fluid mover. I have a comparison out there that some people didn't like, but I actually think actually fits really well. I think he reminds me a lot of Courtland Sutton. We've seen Courtland.
I like that.
A lot
of
the size is the same. Courtland Sutton was like a 90th percentile agility athlete as well, like very low numbers in agility. I think Rome Odunze is that kind of mover as well. He might even be a little bit faster, but 108 here. Rome Odunze going to be hopefully the number 1 wide receiver for the Bills after Stephon Diggs leaves. And was he in round 1 here?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, round 1.
Yeah, he's a round 1. He's a round 1 prospect. Yep. Yep. He was the 3rd in this mock. He was the 3rd one taken after Neighbors. So, listen, that landing spot's going to vault him up there too. I mean,
absolutely.
So landing spot matters. I don't care what anyone says. All right, with the 9th pick in the first round, I'm going back to the quarterback. All right, I feel like there's a teardrop in the wide receiver, just a small teardrop in the wide receiver room, teardrop in the tight end room, and I'm still not ready to take a running back in this class. I'm a little, down with, as a lot of people are in this class, and I'm going to go with JJ McCarthy. It's a super flex league. I am going to swing. I got him in the first round going to the Raiders. All right. So, again, you play super flex. I have him projected here in the middle round of the first round. Does he go back to school in Michigan? We've been talking about the transfer portal and everything that's been going on there, and there's a lot of discussion of teams going to Michigan. So that lends me to think that he is going to declare for the NFL draft. Superflex League didn't have the best season. He's not done yet. He could win a national championship. All right, this is early December, and the championship game hasn't happened yet. But he's a first-round quarterback, Superflex League. There's a lot of receivers I like in this draft and a lot of depth, which I'm going to be able to get to later in the draft. So I'm going to take another quarterback here and secure my quarterback room with JJ McCarthy here at the 9th pick in the first round going to the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I like this pick too. I mean, this is a guy who this is going to be a day 1 start opportunity as well, going to the Raiders here. I think that he has shown some minor improvement in some areas. I wanted to see a guy that likes to work completely out of structure. But this year I saw him, dealing from the pocket a little bit more. And then they took a bunch off his play at the end of the year, which just raised a bunch of questions, right? Like why they aren't letting him throw. Like he's thrown for what? Like under 400 yards over the past 3 games combined. Like they're not asking him to do anything. So it's like, are they hiding him? So yeah, it's going to be one of the more polarizing prospects of this class, I think. But at 110, I'm going over to the wide receiver well again. And you just mentioned how landing spot matters. And I think this kind of propped it up. But this is a guy that keeps rising for me as well. And I'm talking about Oregon wide receiver Troy Franklin going in round 1 to the Kansas City Chiefs, the spot that we are all hoping that they're just going to get a wide receiver to go there. And here we finally get one, round 1 capital, putting some investment at the position. Troy Franklin, I think, is a phenomenal athlete. He's a little bit thin, but I think he does a lot of things really well. I think over his career, he's become a more complete wide receiver as well. He came in kind of like as a raw athlete and then saw a jump in year 2 and even saw another massive jump here in year 3. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver for the Chiefs that they can do a lot with. He's very versatile as well. So 110 here, going with Troy Franklin to the Chiefs.
Yeah, you and I did all 22 films for our dashboard subscribers not too long
Yep.
ago. I mean, the guy is a twitchy athlete and he's a space creator. And,
Yep.
that landing spot is going to, solidify that first round rookie draft selection.
Yeah.
With the 11th pick in the first round, I'm going with one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft, and that is Brian Thomas Jr. I love the landing spot. He is getting the round one draft capital. I think he's a round one wide receiver. I put him going to the Dallas Cowboys, which is, I think, a phenomenal landing spot. They need someone on the opposite side with Lamb. But I'll tell you, Brian Thomas Jr., I have 3 or 4 films out on the YouTube channel. Go take a look at him. I mean, this kid can play. He is in the shadows right now of Neighbors because he's getting all of the talk. But this kid, Brian Johnson Jr., can play ball, man. I'm telling you, he is a solid wide receiver, got great ball skills. He's got some speed. Man, I love his yards after catch ability. I think, I love his size, his length. He's got good hands. Everything I like about him. I'm all in on Brian Thomas Jr. here at the 11th pick. In the first round, going to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, a really nice bounce back season for him after a quiet year last year, and really showed a lot more versatility in his game. I thought he was kind of like I pegged him as a good possession guy, but he showed way more speed, way more movement skills than I gave him credit for. So yeah, I love that pick there. At 112, I'm sticking with my analysis here with a guy that I really like. We still have one round one wide receiver on the board, but I'm going into round 2, and I'm taking a guy that I still really like, and I'm giving some leniency for the injuries, and that's Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. I also don't think that Kyle McCord, quarterback there, was very great as well. He was kind of locked in on Marvin Harrison a lot of the time, and Emeka Egbuka spent a lot of the time injured as well. But from what I've seen from him, very versatile player. He has the speed that I like. The comp that I gave him is a guy that I think that he can do a little bit. I like him as a Chris Godwin type, a guy that has a long-standing skill set in the league as well. And going here to Carolina in round 2, still a great spot. They are in massive need of playmakers. I think Mingo was a little bit of a missed pick for them. I don't know why they spent such a high draft capital on a guy like that, but they come around here, fix it with a guy like Emeka Egbuka who can do a little bit of everything and become a nice safety blanket for Bryce Young.
I like it. He's going to be that primary receiver. He's going to get open in the middle, intermediate parts of the field, which I really believe Bryce Young excels at. Not that he doesn't throw a nice deep ball, but if you watch Egbuka and you watch his film, he just feasts in the middle of the field in the, between, 0 and 25 yards. And I think he'll be a excellent security blanket for Bryce Young. I love that pick ending out the first round. We're going to head into the, the second round. And I'm going to lead us off. I am going back to the quarterback well again. I'm not ready to take a running back in this class. I'm going to go with Bo Nix. I gave him round 1 draft capital towards the middle to 2/3 portion of the draft going to the Denver Broncos. All right. So again, super flex league. Bo Nix has done a really nice job the last 2 years at Oregon. If he gets the first round draft capital, you got to swing with a quarterback here at the early part of the second round. If he gets drafted late, round 2, early day, round 3, well, then maybe he's not so high up. But round 1 draft capital, a team is going to make a significant, investment in him. I don't know what Russell Wilson's contract status is, but I love all quarterbacks to sit on the bench for 1 year. He could be the heir apparent if he does get the round 1 draft capital. And I've seen him mocked in a lot of mocks where he's getting, first round draft capital. So for this exercise, first round draft capital going to the Denver Broncos, I'm going to take a swing here with him.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the philosophy. If there's a round 1 quarterback, you just have to take a swing. If you need quarterback, and here we are in the second round as well, taking a first round quarterback. There's not a lot more upside in a pick that you can make right here, but there's a lot of downside in a pick like that too. And I will say, I'm still not that much of a Bo Nix fan. Like, I think that if this pick ever came to me, I'd be selling this pick, or I won't be the one making the pick. But I totally agree with the philosophy. Right. Yeah, you have to agree with the philosophy. I'm just, but 202, I do go back to the running back. Well, who a guy I know you are also a little bit low on here. So we're picking 2 guys. I think both of us are a little bit low on back to back here. But I'm going with Braylon Allen, Wisconsin running back. I just think he's too much of a unicorn to ignore. I think somebody in the NFL is going to take him with the idea of using him in the proper way. You're not going to bring him into a wide open offense, run him out of the shotgun a bunch, expect him to be a pass catcher and stuff like that. Someone's going to take him with the idea, okay, I'm going to pound this guy 20 times a game. I'm going to line him up in the eye. I'm going to line him up in the single back. I'm going to try to get a blocker out in front of him, get him out in space, and let him get downhill to get that speed. Because I do think he has some speed. I think he's grown as a mover throughout his career too. This was a guy who came in as a linebacker. So, and he's only going to be 20 years old when he goes to the draft. There's still development there. I think that still needs to take place for him. So I think he's a very interesting, and he's going to be very polarizing. So I'm taking him here at 202, and he's also going over to to the Carolina Panthers, where Emeka Buka just went, and they've been struggling with running back for this year. They haven't really been able to settle on a guy, and Chuba Hubbard's kind of breaking out a little bit here these past couple of weeks, but I don't think he's the guy forever. So Braylon Allen here at 202.
Yeah, and he was a third-round pick, right? And we know that
Yeah.
Carolina has the first pick in the second and third round as of right now. So he's an early, round 3 guy, and they need to build around Bryce Young. And you're absolutely right. It's a great landing spot for him. They are going to feed him the rock. The best thing that organization can do for Bryce Young is to lean on a running game and go to maybe more play action, where they're not looking for him to have to make all the plays. You don't want to ruin his career. So I love that pick here early on. Again, third pick in the second round, I am going back to the tight end room. I'm, uber excited about the tight ends. Given that I play mostly tight end premium leagues, and this is what this is. Going to Miami Dolphins, I don't mind the landing spot at all, and I'm going with Jatavian Sanders. All right, he's my second one on the board. He got round 2 draft capital from Miami here. Now I know there's a lot of pass catchers there. I like Jatavian Sanders. I think he's athletic enough to produce fantasy wise, but what I really like about Sanders is I've done a ton of film study on Bijan Robinson and a ton of film study on CJ Baxter and Brooks before he tore his ACL. And I'll tell you, Jatavian Sanders excels on the line of scrimmage as a blocker. And I think he is one of the best blocking tight ends that I've seen watching running back film. And he's got decent hands. He's athletic enough to get open in the middle of the field. And the fact that he can block and be an effective, blocker is going to mean that he is going to be on the field a lot. So I'm going to go with Jatavian Sanders here with the third pick, because the tight end class kind of dries up pretty quick. I'm going to grab him here with the third pick in the second round, going to Miami.
Yeah, very good pick. I was actually thinking about taking him shortly here in the second round as well. So you did kind of snipe me there. And Jatavian Sanders, very nice athlete as well. I mean, my co-host over on my podcast, Mike Valerie, he even considers Jatavian Sanders as a first-round pick and potentially even the guy he wants over Brock Bowers, at least at price right now.
Nice.
Because he thinks he's a more well-rounded tight end, which, I mean, there might be some merit. Some people are worried about Brock Bowers' size. So, I mean, we'll see what he checks in as anyways. But going over to 204, I'm going back to Texas to take a wide receiver that I still have a lot of love for, in Xavier Worthy, a guy that I think can be a Deshaun Jackson type, a Will Fuller type on the next level. I think he's improved his hands a little bit this year. That was one of the things we harped on him a little bit. They're still not perfect. He still kind of had some trouble linking up with Quinn Ewers at times this year, but I also think that's also some of Quinn Ewers, some of him, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of timing is off, but I think he has a nice skill set that the NFL is going to like. Are willing to take more shots on guys with a little bit of the skinnier build. Your Tank Dells, your Tutu Atwells we're seeing do well. Jordan Addison was a thin guy. Devontae Smith was a thin guy. So the size isn't bothering me as much. The speed is what the NFL is really going to like. And I think he's going to have a role in the NFL. So I like taking him here in the second round. And he goes to, let me pull it up.
The Browns.
He goes to the Browns in round 2, which I have no idea what's going to happen. But I guess Deshaun Watson, if he comes back nicely, I think they're tied to him on, they can't even do anything to get out of that contract. So I think they're locked with him. So hopefully he makes a bounce back here, but I guess I'm going more on the talent here because I didn't even consider the landing spot what I was talking about.
That's okay, man. Worthy's been a top wide receiver in the class. One thing about him that worries me is his physical play strength at the catch point when he's down vertical. I like his tracking ability, like one-on-one, and that's probably not his game. But when I see him tracking the ball on the boundary going downfield, he just doesn't seem like he's got the body control to go up and make the adjustment and come down with those, those catches. But in any case, and with the fifth round, in the second round, the fifth pick, I'm going to the running back room. Finally, this is the middle of the second round, and I'm going to take Trey Benson going to the Green Bay Packers. I feel comfortable going to the running back well right now. Trey Benson is my number 2 back currently on my ranks. Like the landing spot. Aaron Jones, I think, has one more year in 2024. He's going to be there, but it's a young team. Love has got this team playing well. They got all these young receivers. I can see them taking a guy like Trey Benson to kind of fill that role. I'm not a huge Dillon guy. I think he's a nice complementary piece, but Trey Benson just might get the opportunity to be a bell cow. He's got the size. He's got the contact balance. Doesn't maybe have the best wiggle that you like to see out of running backs, man, but he's a tough, physical, hard-nosed north-south runner. Taking him here with the 5th pick going to the Green Bay Packers. He did get round, let's see, whatever is he? Rounds 2 draft capital. Yeah, so he got picked in the second round here.
Yeah, so that's a great landing spot for him as well. I'm still very high on Trey Benson. He was probably the guy that I was even going to take a swing at here right away too. So I was very big on him coming into the season. It was a little bit of a disappointing year. They
Hmm.
rotated the backs a lot. Maybe it was hard for him to get into a rhythm. I also thought maybe he was trying to get the big play a little bit too much, dancing a little bit too much, especially after those missed tackles last year. Maybe he felt like he could do more. I wanted to see him get downhill a little bit more frequently, and he still had some big games. Still excels in the receiving game as well. But really
Yeah.
nice pick here. I still think that he's. I think he's like Dane Brugler's like RB2 right now still too, which gives me more confidence in what I'm seeing. The NFL traits
Hmm.
are still there, even though the
Right.
production wasn't.
Yeah.
Heading over to 206 here, I'm taking a shot back at the quarterback. Well, I'm going to my team that I love it with the Minnesota Vikings, who take Michael Penix Jr. here in the second round. I've been up and down on Michael Penix. I think that he's shown a lot of growth. I think that he was actually good all the way back at Indiana. I think he's a good player. I struggle sometimes with some of the ball placement, with some of the touch, but even if you watch this last game, that was like some of the highs. He threw some incredible throws in that game down the field. He's not afraid to attack down the field. He's not afraid to throw it to multiple guys. He doesn't lock in on one guy. He reads the field really well. And then you also saw some of the boneheaded interceptions, throwing off the back foot where he
Hmm.
gets intercepted. Like some of those things. And he's not the most mobile guy as well. But we're talking about round 2 here. We're talking about Minnesota Vikings have a great team around him.
Hmm.
Kirk Cousins is going to be on his way out probably sometime soon. They might go back to him next year, but then Michael Penix gets to sit a year here too. It's round 2. They're not expecting him to play right away. Great landing spot, and I'm going to take the shot here on Michael Penix developing and becoming the quarterback of the future.
Yeah, if he could sit for a year, you never know. I mean, you
Yeah.
just never know. I like the pick a lot. I think that pretty much rounds out. I think the majority of the quarterbacks. I think there's one left though. All right, so with the seventh pick in the second round, I'm going to take the last round one player not chosen. I'm going to take wide receiver Xavier Legette going to the Houston Texans. Like the landing spot a lot. This guy's a size speed combo freak. I saw something was put out there as the fastest players in college football. I think he was in the top 10 of all of
Yep.
college football. I think he's like 6'3" or something like that. But this guy, balled out this year. He's a his film is incredible. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is he's a 1-year wonder. If you look at
Yeah.
his stats, I mean, he hasn't done anything. He's a 5th-year player, I think, so he's on the older side as well. But man, I'll tell you what, I don't know if the NFL really cares about age so much anymore. If they're looking to get 4 years out of a player. But he got round 1 draft capital in this. Now, if he was a round 4 player, I would not probably be considering here. But round 1, Houston Texans. CJ Stroud, sign me up.
Yeah, round 1 in the middle of the second round of a dynasty draft probably doesn't happen. And maybe this
Mhm.
is just a reflection on how we think about Xavier Legette, because there is a lot of questions in his profile, 5th-year profile. And it's not like he had major injuries through his career. Like he doesn't have a lot of excuses for not being productive.
Right.
So the fact that he really is just a 1-year wonder. I mean, and you've watched quite a bit of film. Have you seen this guy's lower half? This guy has like a tree trunk for a lower
I
half.
know.
He's got
I
his
know.
like his butt is huge, his legs are huge, like, and that's where he's generating so much speed from. Like
Mhm.
he's really a marvel in that sense, but he is winning a lot on speed right now. I don't see a lot of refinement in the route running and stuff like that. There's a lot of like Spencer Rattler was one of the lowest ADOT players as well this year. It was a lot of him breaking the big plays himself. So there's a lot of questions about it. So
Right.
I'll be interested to see how that works out. 208, I think we're going to another guy that I think we're both kind of low on seeing him go
Mhm.
here because I think he'll go a lot higher. That's Keon Coleman over at FSU. And he's a guy that I haven't really been like super strong on. And he's going here to the LA Rams in round 2, I believe, which is a pretty good spot. Or is it round 2? Yeah, round 2. He goes
Yep.
here to the Rams, which is a pretty good spot. They do need some other guys. Cooper Cup's getting older, but Nakua kind of broke out this year. Cup will probably be there. So this might be kind of a longer play at the wide receiver position, but he is more of that old school bully ball type of wide receiver, right? Excels more at the catch point. He's not going to be a guy who gets a ton of separation. He's kind of the archetype in the NFL that they don't really chase after that much anymore. You know, you don't see a lot of these big contested catch guys. And he's done some disappearing acts this year. Like I know there's the
Mhm.
very flashy highlights, and I think a lot of people rely on that, but it's like there is a lot of disappearing acts this year, and he doesn't even have a very high contested catch percentage, catch rate as well. I will give him credit for being a much better mover than I thought he was when I looked at him in Michigan State. So I think he's going to test a lot better than I expected him to. But I'm still a little bit low on his archetype in the NFL, being a major fantasy producer. So at 208 here, I'm taking Keon Coleman.
Yeah, well, I think most people, listening and watching this are gonna be, like, giving us the business because
Absolutely, yeah.
he's ranked number 2 or 3 on, like, every, show out there
Yeah.
in every ranking on the internet. And I agree. Everything that you said, I'm not going to waste any more time. I agree 100% with you. I think he's a contested catch guy, and I question his ability to create space. With the
Yeah.
ninth pick in the second round, I'm taking one of my favorite receivers in this class, a guy that can create space easily, and that's Malachi Corley going to my Eagles. Man, he would be a nice fit as a slot receiver. The Eagles, after getting demolished by the 49ers, need a slot receiver. They need another option. If this were to happen, he got round 2 draft capital. Malachi Corley, love his skill set. He is a tough, physical playmaker, good yak ability. He's got good speed, got great hands. He's tough as nails. Just what the Eagles need, just a tough slot receiver to work the middle of the field. Going with Corley here, going to my Eagles with the ninth pick in the second round.
Yeah, and he's kind of got that closer to that gadget skill set that the Eagles don't really have right now. Like they
Mhm.
have wide receivers on the boundaries. They don't really have that short guy they get the ball to in space. So he'd
Exactly.
really excel there. So that's a really good landing spot there. Another guy, I'm going heading back to Texas again. We've taken a lot of Texas players in this draft, but I'm heading to a wide receiver that I think has grown a lot this year, and has shown some really strong growth down the stretch as well. He shows up in big games, which is something you always want to see anyways. But Mr.
Mhm.
Adon Mitchell coming over from Georgia, spending the year here at Texas, and really grew throughout the year, becoming much better. I think he's a very fluid mover. I think he's very good at the catch point. And going to the Jaguars here, where I think they need weapons outside Ridley. Ridley, I mean, even though he feels like he's young, he's going to be like 30 years old next year. So, I mean, he's already
Yeah.
starting to reach that peak that we're worried about. Trevor Lawrence, great quarterback. He's going to be set up here in a good offense. He went in round 3 in this draft, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he goes
Yes,
in
he
round
did.
3. So,
Mhm.
still a day 2 pick. So, I like that pick here.
I like it a lot. He should, he's probably a lot of people probably have him higher than I do on this rank. All right, with the 11th pick in the second round, I'm going back to the running back. Well, I'm going with Blake Corum, going to the Vikings. Like the landing spot, he got day 2
Two,
draft capital
round 2.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, round 2 draft capital. All right. Um, so I've liked Corum. This year was a little bit of a down year for him. I don't know if that knee injury is concerning or not.
Mm-hmm.
If he's 100% back from that, but I love his twitch. I love his vision, his ability to cut and redirect. He's the same size as DeAndre Swift and Jalen Warren from Pittsburgh. He's like 4 or
Yeah.
5 pounds lighter. So I know this knock on Corum's going to be his frame, his size. He can't move piles. But I think the NFL, they're all committee backs anymore. And I think he would fill a role, especially with the Vikings. I could see them giving him an opportunity to run the rock. And if he does get, day 2 draft capital, they're going to make an investment in here. There's nobody on the Vikings right now running the ball that I'm certainly impressed with. So he might get an early opportunity. So I'm going with Corum here at the 11th pick in the second round.
And that'll end up being a value here if that actually ends up
Mhm.
where he gets selected because they
Yeah.
need somebody. So at 212, though, I'm going back to the running back well as well. And this kind of a philosophy as I get deeper in the draft, take some shots on some running backs, especially when you haven't previously, because
Mhm.
injuries happen in front of them. A lot of guys get opportunities. This is kind of more than taking the deeper wide receiver. I like to take some of the deeper running backs. So I'm going to a guy who would be my RB3 if he got good draft capital right now. And that's Devon Neal over at Kansas City. From Kansas. I really like this guy. I do. I think he has size. I think he's grown every year that I've watched him. He's very efficient as well with his touches. They never give him the full workload, but the games where they have given the workload, he's looked really good. He's a good pass catcher. He has athleticism. The thing I saw really grow from him this year was around the line of scrimmage. I thought he showed really good patience, when to get
Mhm.
downhill, when to press the line, when to move. So I thought he really grew and came into his own as a runner. I'm worried about the attention he's going to get being at Kansas. I hope that he blows up the combine so he gets a little bit more attention. He goes round 4 here to the Texans, who have been, mixing between Singleton and Pierce. I don't think they have a real guy here. Locking this up in a good offense here with CJ Stroud going forward. I like this pick here at 212.
Yeah, I just did a film review with Matt Cooper on the dashboard, and I'll tell you, the dude's got some real lateral ability and vision at the line
Yeah,
of scrimmage. I
absolutely. Yeah.
saw exactly what you're talking about. All right,
Yeah.
let's head to the third round. Let's run through these really quick, Corey. 301. I'm taking Lad McConkey, going to the Giants. All right, you're probably thinking, "Ooh, the Giants is a landing spot." Yeah, I kind of thought that too, but they have nobody else to throw the ball to there. I love Lad McConkey. I think the guy, here in the third round, I'm thrilled to have him. I think he's a space creator. I think he's just going to be a quarterback's best friend. I'm taking him here with the first pick in the third round.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a nice safety valve in the NFL. At 302, I'm going with teaming up my quarterback I took at 102 with his weapon from UNC and
Mhm.
Devontae Walker, also going to the Patriots. And that's why I kind of like this lockup here. I like how you did this, where he's taking his weapon with him. So there's going to be a lot there. I thought he looked really good this year, given that he only got like the 6 or 8 games or whatever he got to play. Did a lot of versatile things as well. I think he's an NFL athlete. He's going to be a little bit raw, but this will be an interesting landing spot for him. Hopefully, the Patriots can turn the tide with their wide receiver selections in the draft with this one.
I didn't put the two UNC boys together on purpose. It just happened
It
to
just
fall that
happened,
way. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
With the third pick in the third round, I'm going to go with Bucky Irving, running back. I
Mm.
love the landing spot at the Cardinals. I'm a Bucky Irving fan. I wasn't last year, but this year he showed me some physicality that I was concerned about back in 2022. The dude fights for every yard. He's twitchy. Again, I feel like the NFL is moving towards wanting a running back that can move the piles and pound in the middle, and then they want a guy they can put out in space. Caught a ton of balls in Oregon this year. Love Bucky Irving here. I think it's great value with the third pick in the third round.
Yeah, any running backs here in the third. All these picks are a nice value here in the third. If you hit on any of these, this is great. So
Right.
I'm going back to the running back as well here. I don't know what the landing spot, because it seems like they took Chase Brown last year, but a running back here in round 4, Marshawn Lloyd, USC running back who had a nice bounce back from the ACL injury, coming over here to USC. He started to look like himself again. That freshman that we loved coming into college before he tore that ACL early on. Very twitchy, good pass catcher. He's going to the Bengals here in round 4, which I don't know. I do think he's a better player than Chase Brown. I just wonder if that's more like a mix. Maybe they're going to committee that. I think Mixon has shown his decline. I think he's going to be on his way out sooner than later. But it's going to be tied to a very good offense here, and I think he's going to be a very good committee type player for them.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I'm a big Marshawn Lloyd fan. You know that.
Yeah.
All right, with the fifth pick in the third round, I'm going to go with Jaylen Polk, a receiver I kind of targeted early on this year as a riser in college football, going to the Jets. Who knows if Aaron Rodgers plays for 2 more years, they need another pass catcher on the opposite side of Wilson. And if Rodgers plays for 2 more years and Jaylen Polk, I think he is a great possession receiver that they need. Shouldn't get, coverage, with what's his name there?
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. So Jaylen Polk just emerged for Washington this year. Like his game a lot, and taking him here going to the Jets with the 5th pick in the third round.
Like that pick a lot. I'm taking the other Washington boy, who's I think this is the greatest steal of the draft. Okay, because I wasn't even thinking about him that much because he was listed so low at the beginning, but we fixed his draft position a little bit once we realized he was low. But Mr. Jaylen McMillan, who I actually think I might have taken in the second round if I remembered him, but I know I only noticed him a little bit later in the list. But he goes to the Cardinals here, and we moved that up to round 4 to kind of break the difference where we had put him. I think that's a great landing spot as well.
Yeah,
a nice weapon that I think can do a lot of different things, play in the slot, play outside. He's going to be a nice weapon for Kyler Murray going forward. So
yeah. Could be the steal of the third round here.
Yeah.
As we finish this mock draft. All right, I'm going to go back to the tight end. Well, Cade Stover is my third ranked tight end in the class, going to the Browns. Njoku, I don't know what his contract status is. Harrison Bryant seems to be emerging in the last 2 weeks, but nonetheless, Cade Stover has played a great season at Ohio State. They finally got the tight end involved over there at Ohio State. Love the landing spot here again in the tight end premium. I'm going to take another tight end here. Hopefully he hits for my dynasty roster.
Yeah, I'm glad you took all the tight ends so I didn't have to. So moving on to 3.
I noticed that. You don't have
308. I'm thinking a guy who broke out a little bit. I followed this guy a little bit as a recruit. Michigan wide receiver Roman Wilson, who is actually an incredible athlete. Like this guy as a recruit tested like a 4.3. He jumped like 40 inches. He tested a really good shuttle time as well. So he's a very good athlete. He didn't get that much volume this year, but he broke a lot of big plays. I think he's a guy who's going to blow up the combine, and that'll help raise his stock. He goes round 3 here to the Niners, who I'm not sure where he's going to fit in, depending on what happens with Aiyuk. I don't know what's going to happen with Debo. He's getting a little bit older, but it's an offense that loves to use speed, and this guy has it. So that'll be a nice spot for him to see what they can do with him.
Yeah, Roman has definitely made a name for himself this season.
Yeah.
With the 9th pick in the third round, I'm going to go with Jacob Cowing going to the oh my goodness, what the
Bengals.
The Bengals, sorry. The Bengals. I mean, T. Higgins, free agent, I think, right?
Yep.
So, he's going to be moving on. Jacob Cowing is that possession underneath receiver slot guy that I think could really emerge. I want to pair him with Burrow. So I'm taking Cowing here, the 9th pick in the third round.
Yeah, and Tyler Boyd getting a little bit older too. I don't know what his contract looks like, but he might be on the way out as well if they're
Yeah.
trying to look to save money. So that
Yep.
could be a very good spot for him. At
Right.
310, I'm going with a running back that kind of came on strong a little
Yeah,
bit towards
man.
the end of the season in Washington running back Dylan Johnson, man. And this was a guy that came from Mississippi State, had a nice receiving profile from there. We really wanted to see a little more rushing. I think he showed that a lot this year. He played through
Mhm.
some tough injuries. He's a tough runner, getting downhill quick, and he has that receiving profile to add to it, has the size as well. And I think he'll test fairly well as well. So Dylan Johnson here at 310, I think is a nice shot to take here at the end of the
Oh,
draft.
I love this pick at the end. I
Yeah.
mean, he
Oh,
really had
and going to Dallas here, which is another interesting spot here. You got
great
round
spot.
4 capital, and Pollard hasn't been probably what everybody hoped. Like even in a tandem, that could be a nice pick.
It could be the steal of the draft, no doubt about it. So I'm going to go with Audric Estime here
Ooh,
with
I
the
love
11th
this one
pick.
too. I love this
Going
one.
to the Tennessee Titans. Looks like, Derrick Henry is an unrestricted free agent next year. There is no way they re-sign Derrick Henry even to a 1-year deal. He is moving on. It's time for Tennessee to change their whole vision. And I think Estime could come in. He's that big bruising running back that would just kind of fit the mold and be that north-south runner with the size and the ability to just move piles. So feel like really good value here at the end of the 3rd round with Estime going to Tennessee Titans. Love the landing spot.
Yeah, there is probably not a better landing spot for Audric Estimate to go
Mhm.
to. So that's a great one. 312 here, last pick of the draft. What do you do with the last pick of the draft? You swing for the fences, okay?
Swing
So
for the
all I'm
fences.
doing is swinging for the fences. Spencer Rattler getting round 3 capital, going to the LA Rams. They don't have a quarterback really of the future right now. Stafford's getting older. He's dealing with injuries. I don't know how much longer he's going to be around, but Sean McVay is still going to be there. They're still going to have offensive weapons there. And Rattler has an NFL arm. He doesn't have an NFL brain. That'll be one thing you'll have to fix, but he's got the NFL arm. And I will see what happens to the next level if someone spends that round 3 capital.
Yeah, well, I love the pick because I think you're absolutely right. When McVay, the guy can work magic over there. So,
Yeah.
all right, there you guys got it, man. That is our 3-round rookie mock draft. We'll be doing one of these probably, I'm thinking once a month as we head more towards April. So, all right, man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So.